Imagine you're driving home after work, then suddenly, flashing red and blue lights appear behind your car. Your heart starts racing. You wonder what happens next. The officer approaches your window and asks for your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. After checking the information, the officer makes a decision. The officer returns and informs you that you are under arrest. The officer places handcuffs on your wrists while explaining the arrest procedure. You may hear your rights being read, depending on the circumstances and questioning that follows. Next, you are transported to the local police station for booking. The booking process officially begins at the police station. But what exactly happens during booking? That's where the legal process truly begins. The first step is confirming your identity and recording basic personal information. Next, fingerprints are taken as part of the standard booking process. A booking photograph, often called a mugshot, is usually taken as part of the official record. Personal belongings are documented and securely stored until release, following department procedures. Depending on the situation and local procedures, you may be allowed to make a phone call. You may wait in a holding area while officers complete paperwork and processing. During this time, officers complete reports and prepare the necessary legal documents. The exact timeline depends on the charges, local procedures, and the circumstances of the case. Once booking is complete, the next legal step is preparing for the first court appearance or release, depending on the circumstances. So what happens when you finally stand before a judge? That's the next stage of the criminal justice process. Within a short time after an arrest, many defendants appear before a judge for their first court hearing. This is often called an arraignment. The courtroom is quiet as everyone prepares for the hearing. The judge confirms the defendant's identity before the hearing begins. The charges are formally read in court, and the defendant is informed of the allegations. At this stage, the defendant is informed of important legal rights. If the defendant does not already have a lawyer, the court may address legal representation. The court then considers whether the defendant may be released before trial, depending on the circumstances and applicable law. The judge announces the decision regarding release conditions. The hearing concludes, and the next phase of the criminal case begins. Now the defense begins preparing the case by reviewing the evidence and planning the legal strategy. Police reports, witness statements, photographs, and other evidence are carefully examined. The prosecutor also reviews the evidence while preparing the government's case. Both sides must exchange certain information through a legal process known as discovery. Discovery helps both sides understand the evidence before trial. Sometimes, the attorneys discuss whether the case can be resolved before trial. Any decision about resolving a criminal case should be made carefully with advice from a qualified attorney. If the case does not end early, both sides continue preparing for trial. Every document, witness, and piece of evidence is reviewed one final time. The courtroom doors are about to open once again. This time, the trial begins. The trial begins with one important step: selecting an impartial jury. Both sides ask questions to help identify jurors who can remain fair and impartial. Once the jury is selected, the trial officially moves forward. The prosecution begins with its opening statement. An opening statement is not evidence. It simply explains what each side expects the evidence will show. Next, the defense presents its own opening statement. The defense reminds the jury that the prosecution carries the burden of proving its case. The first witness is called to testify under oath. The prosecutor begins questioning the witness to present the government's evidence. But every witness can also be questioned by the defense. And that's where the trial becomes even more important. Now comes cross-examination, where the defense has an opportunity to question the witness. Cross-examination helps test the accuracy and reliability of the testimony presented in court. After the prosecution finishes presenting its evidence, the defense may present its own witnesses and evidence. Each witness is questioned under the rules of evidence, with both sides having the opportunity to ask questions. Once all evidence has been presented, both sides prepare their closing arguments. Closing arguments summarize the evidence. They are not new evidence themselves. The defense then presents its closing argument, highlighting the evidence and reminding the jury of the legal standard they must apply. The judge explains the law to the jury before deliberations begin. The jury now meets privately to review the evidence and reach a verdict based only on what was presented in court. The courtroom waits in silence, because the jury's decision will shape what happens next. After reviewing the evidence and the law, the jury returns to the courtroom with its verdict. The courtroom becomes completely silent as the verdict is read aloud. The verdict marks a major milestone, but in many cases, it is not the final step in the legal process. Depending on the outcome, the court may schedule additional hearings, including sentencing when required by law. Sentencing is a separate stage where the judge considers the law, the facts, and other relevant information before making a decision. Both the prosecution and the defense may present information that the court is permitted to consider during sentencing. Understanding the legal process can help you make informed decisions during a difficult situation. Every criminal case is unique, and the outcome depends on the specific facts, the evidence, and the law. Knowing your rights and responsibilities is the first step toward navigating the justice system. Today you've seen what typically happens after an arrest, from booking in court hearings to trial, verdict, and appeal. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy easy-to-understand legal documentaries, subscribe for more videos explaining the American justice system.